So here we go. So we are now reconvening open session for the October 11, 2018 Board of Education meeting. And we will begin with the pledge, and I'm going to ask Macy Whitehead at River City High School. She is our student board member to lead the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Macy. Okay, let the record reflect on roll call that all trustees are still present. Now move to announcement of action taken in closed session. E1, Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators, WSTA, CSEA, and Management. Information received, direction given. E2, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release, Action. The board discussed and took initial action on a disciplinary matter. E3, Government Code Section 54956.9, D2, Conference with Legal Counsel, pending or potential litigation. Information received, direction given. We will now move to approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda before we approve this evening's agenda?
Not here.
Very good. May I get a motion?
I move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We will now move to communications, celebrations. J1 is a recognition and acceptance of the resolution number 181910, recognizing October 8th through 12th, 2018 as California Week of School Administrator, and I'm going to ask Trustee Kobe Pizzotti to please read it.
Whereas leadership matters for California's public education system and more than 6 million students it serves, whereas school administrators are passionate, lifelong learners who believe in the value of quality public education, and whereas most school administrators began their careers as teachers, the average administrator has served in public education for more than a decade. Most of California's superintendents have served in education for more than 20 years. Such experience is beneficial in their work to effectively and efficiently lead public education and improve student achievement. And whereas public schools operate with lean management systems across the nation, public schools employ fewer managers and supervisors than most public and private sector industries, including transportation, food service, manufacturing, utilities, construction, publishing, and public administration. And whereas school leaders depend on a network of support from school communities, fellow administrators, teachers, parents, students, businesses, community members, board trustees, colleges and universities, community and faith-based organizations, elected officials, and district and county staff and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success. And whereas the state of California has declared the second full week of October as the Week of the School Administrator in Education Code 44015.1, and whereas the future of California's public education system depends upon the quality of its leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Washington Unified Board of Education and Superintendent that all school leaders be commended for their contribution they make to successful student achievement. Adopted by the Governing Board of the Washington Unified School District on Thursday, October 11th, 2018.
Thank you. May I get a motion?
I move.
Thank you. Second?
I will second.
Thank you. Now this is a roll call vote, so we will begin with Marcy Whitehead.
Aye.
Thank you. Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez,
Aye.
Kobe Pizzotti,
Aye.
Jackie Wong,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. Unanimously passed. Thank you. So we now move on to student Association reports, student board member report, Macy Whitehead, River City High School.
For River City Sports, girls volleyball, with a win this week over Burbank, the varsity girls volleyball team has surpassed their win total from last year. We have seen tremendous growth with each of these teams throughout the season. For cross country, the team continues to grow in terms of participation and improvement. The team ran their second Metro League Conference race yesterday. We have yet to receive the final results. For water polo, they celebrated their senior night on Monday. Both teams posted wins over Monterey Trail. Each team will enter into the Metro League tournament with no less than third place seed. We will be hosting the finals of Metro League tournament on October 25th. The RC girls tennis team continues to roll along in the Metro League. Their only loss was to McClatchy. The two teams meet today to determine the champion of the conference. For football, the Raiders take on McClatchy this Friday in search of their first conference win. We really hope that everyone can come out to support the boys as they continue to work hard to repress our first school community. For River City, our Powderpuff game and rally is coming up on November 2nd. The game will be at 5 o'clock. Sign-ups have started for players and cheerleaders. Practices will start next week. Our annual blood drive is on November 16th from 8 to 4. We hope to get more pints than we have ever got. Something new that's happening this year is Raider Rush Week, which is starting next week during both lunches. And this is an event for freshmen and anyone really to get more informed with all the amazing clubs on the campus. For Washington Middle, on October 17th, most of our freshmen and new students will complete their first college unit as their Human Career Development Orientation to College course ends. On the 18th, they'll be starting their UC Transferable HCD 330 Life and Career Planning course. Ninth graders who are successful in both of these classes will be able to petition to take classes on the SCC West Campus starting in January. As you know, we've been using the VIA rideshare service to transport students to the SCC during the school day. We're generally running 20 trips a week to and from the college, transporting 18 students multiple times for a grand total of only $10 a week by pre-purchasing a VIA pass. The number of students using the service will increase significantly as freshmen begin to take daily classes at the West Sac Center in January. Overall, it does require some daily logic planning, but it is shaping to be an interesting solution to some of our unique transportation needs. Good news for our board members and cabinet. We've moved our Halloween movie night to Friday, October 26th at 6 p.m. Hopefully, we'll see everyone there for games, treats, and more. Thank you.
That was excellent. Thank you. We will now move on to WSTA report. Don Stauffer.
Good evening. It's been kind of a frustrating last couple of weeks, a lot of issues going on with teachers in the district. They're all things we can get through, but it's been kind of an interesting time. And so I wrote down my message when I was in rather irate, so I'm going to skip a lot of the ranting and raving and just get to some of the issues I want to talk about. So virtually all of us now are either in the midst of implementing new curriculum or getting ready to adopt new curriculum. And of course, right in the middle of this, the test scores from last spring show up. And at least one site, teachers were told, well, clearly you aren't doing your job. It's all your fault. And there were apparently lots of tears and unhappy people at that day. So I'm hoping we can get beyond that. You know, here we are in the midst of all of this change, and it's going to take time to get things going where we want them to be. And obviously we want to improve test scores, but we also want to keep our eye on what we ultimately want for kids, and that's for kids to be successful when they leave our schools. And frankly, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm alone in this, that test scores aren't going to help kids succeed in their careers and in college. So I'm going to skip about a half page of ranting and raving. So I'm hoping, because this actually happened to me the other day in my day, was that pretty much be encouraged to go back to teaching to the test. And I want to get our conversation beyond that. And I understand we all want kids to do well, but we have to also think about what it means to be doing well. And speaking for me, but I'm really know for many of my colleagues who work a lot harder than I do, they're exhausted already, and they want their kids to succeed, and they could use a little bit some more support. And so I hope to be working with our Ed Services Department to get them that. At the last board meeting, a parent made a comment in the public part of the meeting about child bonding leave, and this is as it relates to how the district interprets state law on this issue. And because we have 2 educators in this district who are being affected by the way the district is interpreting this policy, I'm hoping we can move beyond that and do the right thing for these teachers. My ranting and raving on this particular thing revolves around what we hear almost every time when we fly, when we land. Someone gets on the PA and says, "Thank you for flying with us today. We know you have a choice in who you fly with, and we appreciate your business." We're in a place now where educators have a choice of where they teach, and I know talking to people, and I'm not talking about West Sacramento specifically, but teachers I know, they have their choice of places where they want to teach, and they're taking advantage of that. I'm also receiving a lot of concerns related to student discipline and student-related issues. A couple of the additional things that teachers are feeling this year, especially on top of adopting new curriculum, is MTSS as it relates both to regular ed students, but also to special ed students or students with other students with special needs. I know where the goals are, and I think they're admirable goals, and we want everybody to succeed on our campuses, but it seems like things are being inconsistently done, not only across the campuses, but within campuses. Teachers are confused, they're not feeling supported, and it's affecting their performance, and it's affecting other students. And so I'm hoping that we can do something on a district-wide level so that we make sure that we're all on the same page and that everybody is aware of what we need to be doing. Because again, we want, the ultimate goal here is for every student to succeed. And we need to support the people that work with them every day. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you. It doesn't appear we have anyone from CSEA? No. Okay. So we'll now move on to public comments. At this time, members of the public may address the board on topics that are under the jurisdiction of the board and are not on the agenda, although the board by law may not take action at this meeting. The board may limit the total time for public input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it chooses to waive the item limit for a particular item. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic. Public comments consisting of individual charges, complaints, or derogatory remarks about any district employee are requested to be submitted in writing to the administration in accordance with the district's complaint procedure. We do recognize that for a lot of people commenting before the board and the audience and the people watching at home on television is a nerve-wracking experience. So to try to make that as easy as possible, we do ask that there not be any applause or booing or catcalling or other demonstrations to maintain a civil discourse here in the chambers. The board respects the rights of members of the public to speak to us regarding matters on the agenda and other matters within the jurisdiction of the board. However, it is important for members of the public to recognize that comments regarding students other than the speaker's own children made during a public board meeting may be legally actionable as a violation of student privacy. Both state and federal law prohibits the board and others from discussing confidential student information in open session. To this end, be advised that if you reference a student's name other than your own student, you will be out of order, and your comments may not be protected by the privileges that protect public speech. You could be found liable for such comments in legal proceedings. Furthermore, it is important for the board to understand that negative or derogatory comments made against district employees or others, even those made in a public board meeting, may be actionable civil defamation. As such, the board reminds the public that the district has existing board policy that allows the public to lodge a complaint against a district employee. This policy provides a comprehensive procedure for reviewing and responding to public complaints. This process provides a more thorough opportunity to be heard than is allowed under the open meeting law that governs this meeting. We will now move on. There are no public comments, so we will now move on to consent agenda. I'm sorry. No. Very good. We will now move on to consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda before we approve the whole consent agenda? Okay, very good. So may I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Or I'll second. Did you?
thank you.
Make
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, very good. A motion made by Sarah Kirby Gonzalez, seconded by Kobe Pizzati. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Macy. Unanimously approved. Thank you. We'll now move on to public hearing, and there is no public hearing for this meeting. Information discussion items. 01, trustee area boundaries and election sequence for Board of Trustees elections. Linda Luna.
Thank you, President. I'll call up Board of Trustees. This evening, I just wanted to give the board and the public an update in regards to our next process from the board's approval and adoption of the green map from our last meeting. So the next part of the process has to do with gathering direct feedback from stakeholder groups regarding whether the Board of Trustees should move forward on a State Board of Education waiver versus going out to an election process regarding the green map and the CVRA process. So in this process waiver steps, it says that we must consult with employee unions to determine whether they support, oppose, or are neutral regarding the State Board of Education waiver. And I do have 2 appointments next week with both of our unions. It also asks that we consult with relevant advisory committees. And so on Monday morning, I will be meeting with our PTO presidents for our monthly meeting, and this will be on the agenda. They have already discussed the CVRA process. They have looked at the maps already, so in this particular one, we will get their direct feedback on that. I will also be meeting for the first time this school year with our Student Advisory Committee, and this will also be on the agenda. We will bring that feedback back to the board, as well as should the board move forward on the State Board of Education waiver. Those are the pieces of evidence that must go with the application to the State Board. Are there any questions or any comments for that?
No.
Okay, great,
Just
thank
wanna
you.
Thank you. So we will now move on to action items. P1, approval of the adoption of resolution number 181909, National Bullying Prevention Month.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Tonight, the district joins the national campaign in raising awareness of bullying prevention, ensuring a supportive, positive organizational climate free of bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. In such, the district is fully committed to and supports the rights of all students and staff to attend and work in schools and departments that are safe and free from violence, harassment, bullying, and discrimination. Some things that we have put in place, which the board is aware of, is the buddy program. We've also developed a more effective flow chart and bullying report procedures. We've put it on the main page of our district website, which takes you to the Student Services Department and outlines the procedures for parents and students. We also have begun doing restorative practices, as well as Reach One Alliance, which we have done for the past few years. On top of that, later on in the meeting, you will be looking at approving and considering approving board policies. One of those board policies is on bullying. It was changed by CSBA primarily to include electronic bullying, and training for staff, as well as instruction for students, so that students that will promote social emotional learning to support our students' knowledge. So tonight, we'd like to read the resolution. I believe the board reads the resolution.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. I was going to ask.
All right.
David Reading.
Thank you, President Alcala. Whereas the Washington Unified School District supports the rights of students and staff to attend schools that are safe and free from violence, harassment, bullying, and discrimination, including all forms of social media, and whereas providing a safe school environment that ensures both the physical and emotional safety of students and staff creates the conditions necessary to foster academic achievement, and whereas bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence, and even the fear of harm can create barriers to learning and contribute to low self-esteem, depression, anger, and in extreme cases, school violence or suicide. And whereas a safe school is one where teaching and learning are not distracted, disruptions are minimized, drugs, violence, bullying, and fear are not present, students are not discriminated against, expectations for behavior are clearly communicated, and consequences for infractions are consistently and fairly applied. And whereas in the most effective approach to create safe school environments requires a comprehensive, coordinated effort, including school-wide, district-wide, and community-wide strategies, where all institutions, organizations, and individuals must accept responsibility for their critical roles and collaborate to establish a positive environment for teaching and learning. And whereas the month of October is National Bullying Prevention Month, which is a campaign in response to the need to raise awareness of bullying that provides schools and communities with an opportunity to educate students, parents, and others about their role in bullying. Now therefore be resolved, the Governing Board of Washington Unified School District hereby supports the goals of National Bullying Prevention Month and will work with a broad spectrum of local community stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, and staff to develop, implement, and monitor policies and programs that foster and support a positive school climate free from bullying, harassment, discrimination, and violence. With that said, I move the resolution to be adopted.
Thank you. May I get a second? Seconded by Trustee Pizzotti. This is a roll call vote. We will go with Macy Whitehead,
Aye.
Sarah Kirby-Gonzalez,
Aye.
Kobe Pizzotti,
Aye.
Jackie Wong.
Aye.
And I also vote aye, unanimously passed. Thank you. We will now move on to board governance. Q1, approval of quarterly revisions to board policies and administrative regulations, 5,000 series educational services.
Good evening again. Tonight, we are bringing back the quarterly updates. Under the 5,000 series, we have 10 board policies and 9 administrative regulations for your consideration. Some of the more significant items is Board Policy 5022. There is an Option 1 and an Option 2. We are recommending Option 1, which is basically that we do not collect personal identifying things from kids for marketing purposes. Another one is, as I just mentioned, BP 5131.2, which is the new board policy on bullying. BP 5145.13A is a new policy, and it has an administrative regulation as well, which is response to immigration enforcement, which is a new policy for us and CSBA. And those are the main ones in the 5,000 series.
Does anyone have any questions, remarks?
I just have one section that I wanted to look at, and this is a lot of pages, so I know that there's a lot to look through. I was wondering if we could just add a little bit of language to, what is it? The bullying prevention, when it talks about at the bottom of the page with bullying prevention, so it's under it cites 6142. Let's see, what would that be under? My big packet doesn't have page numbers. It's under the board policy 5131.2. And it's the second page at the bottom. So 5131.2. I apologize. Normally I give you a
No,
call when
it's
I have a
okay.
question, but
That's fine.
does everybody see where I am? So
is this-
5131.2, and then the part where it says, second page, such instructions shall also educate students?
Yes.
Okay, so on that part where it says such instruction shall also educate students about negative impacts of bullying, discrimination, intimidation, harassment based on actual or perceived immigration status, religious beliefs and customs, or any other individual bias or prejudice. Since we're calling out immigration status, religious beliefs, and customs, I think one of the reasons we know that students have issues with bullying, or where this really comes out, where we know that we need to give extra protections, would be with sexual orientation and gender identity. And I'm wondering if we
Absolutely.
could add that language, because later in the board policy, when it explains harassment, it definitely does call out sexual orientation, gender identity. So I'm wondering if we could add it there, and I believe the law has added to, so that instruction does include LGBT.
I can definitely
Absolutely.
add that.
Okay.
Is that, would you like me to bring it back, or would you like to approve with that amendment?
Could we
Isn't
approve
this
of that
not-
amendment?
Is this in a first read?
Usually not on quarterlies.
Yeah.
We usually don't do first reads on quarterlies.
We can make an amendment
I'm good
now.
with every other piece of the
Yeah.
document. I was
Okay.
just wanted to add that language right there.
No problem.
Okay, very good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I think that's perfect.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we will now move on to, we need to get a motion to approve the,
So moved?
okay, very good. A second?
Second?
Approved with the
And-
change.
Yeah.
With the change, with the amendment to add gender. All right. I'm sorry, Kobe. Yes.
To 5131.2.
Five, yes, thank you so much. All right, very good. So this is not a roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? And no abstentions. Thank you, unanimously
Thank you.
passed. We will now move to approval of, Q2, approval of quarterly revisions to board policies and administrative regulations 6,000 series.
In the 6,000 series, the quarterly updates have 4 board policies and 2 administrative regulations. I would like to call attention to a typo by me, just so you're aware. Board number 6171A actually reads 6162 for the Title I programs. So the Title I program should be 6171, parentheses A.
Okay, so noted.
The only thing that is significant under the board policies is that the BP 6161.3 toxic art supplies have been deleted, no longer needed, because of the materials we now use. Secondly, it is important under BP 6162 student assessment that they actually call out interim and formative assessments now in board policy. Under the administrative regulation, Title I programs, they changed it significantly, but to follow current law from the federal government. And AR 6174, the Education for English Learners, they have 3 significant changes. One, they actually call out for the first time designated and integrated ELD. They call out the LPAC because that needed to be changed. And they talk about language acquisition programs, which is new for administrative regulations.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments? Okay, then may I ask for a motion to approve?
A second?
Second, very good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Unanimously passed, thank you. Okay, we are now moving on very quickly to board and superintendent comments. So we will begin with Sarah Kirby Gonzalez.
Okay, well, first let me say that we approved a resolution on school administration Administrators Week, and we have many of them in this room. They're principals, they're directors, they're assistant superintendents, they're superintendents, and we know that leadership is key. And so you might touch our students in a different way, and sometimes the families don't even know the work that's happening behind the scenes. And so I want to thank the people in this room and all of the people in the district that fall into that category. And I did have cards, but they're on my counter. So, but my daughter's working on cards for her vice principal as well as principal for tomorrow. So, although she should be almost in bed, there should be work done. And then I don't have anything to report. I just want to, the comments about child bonding leave, those have been brought up before. We had asked for that for a while, so I just wanted to make it clear that this board has also asked for that and believes that to be important. And that is all I have. No report. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Kobe Pizzati?
Well, I just wanted to first welcome Macy. She's our new ASB speaker to the board, so good title. I like that. Let's see, what did I do this week? Oh, yes. I went on tour of Lighthouse and their new campus. And it's a nice facility. There's some things that I did notice that were pretty glaring that caused me some concerns, like the lack of a cafeteria. They just have basically a big room that was where they serve food to their kids, but they contract with another agency to bring food in, which caused me to wonder about the services that they're providing and whether or not is that good enough for kids, because all of our facilities, we have on-site cafeterias. So that was one thing, but I did notice that the class sizes were a little bit bigger. K through 3 were 28 kids, which I felt was a bit much. But other than that, the facility is nice. They have all state-of-the-art equipment and so forth. Yeah, it's a very nice new campus, bright and shiny. But I definitely have some questions that I'll have to speak about when it comes time for the renewal of the charter that I'll have to ask about. I also went and had lunch over at the Bright Cafe and got to take a tour behind the scenes while the kids were actually working. So that was really cool. You get to see the kids, doing the waiting of tables and the food prep, and in a chaotic, fast-paced environment, the kids were actually doing exactly the roles they were supposed to be. So it was really heartwarming to see that our kids are learning these skills and putting them to use. So that's about it.
Okay, very good. Jackie Wong?
So I had my first 2x2 meeting with President Alcala and City Councilwoman Karina Orozco, where we actually had one agenda item that I thought was pretty important. And it was the MOU between us and the city regarding the use of data for evaluation and research. And I know that, and related to kind of the efficacy of the college savings accounts. And so I know that we had a really good discussion about whether or not the research questions aligned with our goals. And so I think we're going to go back and review some of the intent of the research questions and whether or not it's aligned with our needs as a district, and go back to the 2x2, and hopefully we'll get something in agreement about that, because I know the public was a little bit concerned as to why we were sharing data for 15 years. PII level data. So I want to be transparent that we're doing our due diligence, working with the city on research questions that will be meaningful to us, as well as the performance of the CSAs. We also, Trustee Kirby Gonzalez and I also went to the CSB Equity Network. I spoke about that last week, and it was, for me, very inspirational. I think Trustee Kirby Gonzalez got to see me a little bit on fire about why equity is so important. In this day and age with LCFF and ESSA. I know data is not sexy, but it's also a measure of equity, right? Whether or not there are subgroups of students who are not being educated or accessing education at the levels as others. So I think in terms of data and being transparent with that, and an equity conversation both in the Title I sphere as well as the local control funding formula, that's why it's important. And we, and having come back from the Title I conference with some of our staff, which is interesting because I got to present to our staff, so they got to judge whether or not I was doing well. So it was really exciting. And some of the things that I took away from that from Dr. Pedro Noguera, some of us from Berkeley who understand kind of his philosophy, is that focusing solely on data is like buying a scale thinking that you're going to lose weight, right? It is just a measure. It's what you do with that number that makes the difference. So I don't want to demonize data altogether because, again, it's the how, it's how we get there, it's the investments that we made in professional development to see whether or not we've actually kind of moved that needle, right? So let's stop focusing on the scale and thinking about how do we change the culture and the climate to increase equity for our special needs students, our students of color, and other foster youth and homeless youth. Right, and so, and quite frankly, some of that's not going to happen for a while. Another quote that I came back with, and I as a reminder, and I've heard it as an educator and as an administrator, former administrator, is that we all have the gift of seeing the tree in the seed. What we do here every single day in education is we plant seeds for future, right? So let's remember that we all see the tree in the seed, and how we feel about the data now. It you know, is really horrible, but we are here to move, touch, and inspire and change a culture, the culture here in this district, because we know what our students are capable of. We know what this community is capable of. And so I just wanted to kind of impart a little bit of that knowledge coming back from the Title I conference. And I know that our staff were there and kind of on fire in this conversation about equity and access. And the CSB Equity Network. So, and the last thing I wanted to share is, and I'll share it with Superintendent Luna, is applications for the Asian Pacific Youth Leadership Project, which is similar to the Chicano Latino Youth Leadership Project, are out. And even though it's focused on API students, seniors and juniors, it's open to everybody, so anybody can apply, where, in full transparency, I sit on the board and I also organize all the food for 50 juniors and seniors. Wow. Over a weekend where we bring them up to the state capitol, teach them about civic engagement, have them talk to a lot of legislative leaders, and they get to sit on the floor of the Senate and be legislators for the day. So hopefully, I'm going to send that out, and hopefully we can get that to our River City and Middle College, and have folks consider applying for that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Well, I attended the CSEA Masters in Governance, and I graduated along with Superintendent Luna. It's a great program. You really learn a lot, everything from finance to advocacy. I really encourage the rest of the board members to take this series of governance, and it is also a great opportunity to network with other school board members, find out the challenges that they also face, and when you're attending these, you also find a lot of solutions that we always bring back, and of course we share with the rest of the cabinet, and the value of these conferences, these governance programs is very good. So I just want to encourage everyone to also sign up if you haven't completed it. Then I attended the Latino School Board Association. It was their annual Unity Conference, and this, to me, is perhaps just one of the most incredibly informative and comprehensive programs around. Not everyone who attends is Latino. We have a lot of different school board members that attend, African American, Asian American. We come together and we discuss issues of equity in our schools. And some of the conference attendees were Tony Thurman, who's running for Superintendent, thank you, of Public Instruction. Thank you, Kobe. I was going to say Supervisor here, Superintendent of Public Instruction. And he was very powerful. I was a little disheartened to hear, with all the problems that we're having with funding in our schools, to hear that there's been sort of a resistance about wanting to close loopholes in Prop 13 with some of these corporations that have not been paying their fair share. This would not affect, the homeowners, the people the intent was supposed to have been to protect, seniors from having to pay exorbitant costs. What basically happened was there was a loophole that allowed Disney and General Electric and some of these huge corporations to no longer pay their fair share. And that's when funding in our schools started going down. So when people talk about, it's sort of a hard thing to do, it's very disheartening because this is our children, this is the future. So I really learned a lot, as I said, from when I went to the California school, the Masters in Governance, advocacy is very important, not just on the behalf of school board members, but all the community. We need more money in our schools, and this is something that's going to be very important. We need to let our legislative officials know that this is something that really needs to be done. So I'm hoping that we can all, educate the public about how necessary it is if we're hoping, to keep our schools, competitive and provide our children with the resources that they need. I was also a little taken aback that the California School Board Association did not support the ethnic studies bill. They said it should be about local control. And that was also, this is something that was discussed at this conference. And that was disheartening because, these ethnic studies teach cultural and gender pride in our students. And it's important for people to appreciate each other's differences. This is something that should be taught in our schools. And most importantly, when I hear that it's about local control, I'm taken to what most of the people used to say during the civil rights era. This is pretty much, you can't call this local control. This is an issue that transcends that. When you teach cultural pride and you teach in ethnic studies to appreciate one another, you are producing a very well-rounded individual, a good citizen for this global economy we have. And I'm really hoping that CSBA reconsiders their position on this. It's not about local control. This bill teaches tolerance as well. And this is something that is not local. This is a civil rights issue in education. So I'm really hoping that when it comes up for reconsideration, that the ethnic studies bill is supported by CSBA. Very important. And I believe that's about all I was going to report on, other than we have some great fall festivals, and I want to encourage, I know the board members are going to go, but I want to encourage all the parents and people listening to please support our schools by attending these festivals. They're a lot of fun, and they have great prizes, and this is the way our schools also make that extra money, for those extracurricular things that we need. Thank you. And Superintendent Luna?
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees. I just have a few slides of updates of what's been going on in the district. I have to confess that I did forget one very important picture that was taken yesterday evening, and that is of our administration, because we had an administrative team meeting yesterday. My words for administrative week is this, is a lot happens on our campus. A lot is asked of our school administrators on our campus. Probably the hardest part of being an administrator is handling situations with professionalism and confidentiality and being helpful to every single stakeholder under their purview. Our students, our families, our staff, certificated and classified, and also the community surrounding the school. And then there's the district office expectations, and then serving with a superintendent that is much more hands-on than others. So I cannot thank all of our administration enough for all that they do and juggle throughout the day, for the multiple evening events of supervision and community building that they do and sacrifice their evenings away from their families. If I look back on my career, I think probably one of my most favorite
jobs I've ever held was being a principal. And just being a part of a school community and a community around the school it's just one that is very hard to describe. And so we just want to give a big shout out to all of our administration and all that they do for us. Thank you to them. The Bright Cafe, I just want to remind our families and our board that we are open for business every single Thursday, but I wanted to let you know that we had brunch at Bright today. And so it was a big project for their semester. And it was off the charts. First of all, the cost of only $15 and the food that was offered and prepared by the students for this particular brunch in our community was far more than you could probably get in a five-star hotel. It was really amazing. What I really loved in being a part of the brunch today is, you see, it was a very full house, and they had to bring out 2 more tables. But by meeting each table, we had people that live right there by the school that came just to have brunch because we opened our doors. People lived around the corner. They came and just were a part of the school community and really had positive things to say about our kids, about our programs, and it was a really, really good morning. So shout out to the culinary kids, and we had kids behind there just prepping just as professionals do at a restaurant, so congratulations to them. I think I skipped a slide. I'm going to go back. Oh, interesting. I'm missing a slide for my walk to school day today. Oh, there it is. Walk to School Day at Southport was today, and we want to thank all of our families for just joining this community event for their school. Want to thank West Sacramento Police Department and just everybody coming out just to make a statement that it is very, very important that we are, as a community, protect our kids when they come to school, when they go home from school. Also fosters good health in walking to school or riding their bikes, and we want to give a shout out to Southport. It's interesting, so today, well, my slides are mixed up a little bit, so let me go back here. Okay, so today we have heard comments about, our teachers are doing a heavy lift. And the heavy lift is about standards-aligned instruction. It is about the how. And what the beauty is about what we're doing right now is that the teachers, it's coming from a grassroots effort, and it's not coming from top-down like the NCLB time of you must do this, you must be on page this. And that's the beauty of today's time in public education. We have adopted new curriculum. The board has invested a lot of money into new curriculum, but more importantly, the curriculum is not the answer. It is about how we're focusing on standards, and the curriculum is a resource. And that's why we're no longer saying teach only this page on this day. And what the beauty of these units of studies is that it's bringing the teachers together to make decisions on what happens in the classroom. There are some things, of course, that are best practices, such as looking at data, and it's not about just looking at the numbers, it's then what do we do with it? How do we use it to help us in our teaching in our classrooms? So my slides are having some interesting things here. Okay, so on this particular one, what I wanted to show you is you've heard a lot about rigorous curriculum design. Now, the rigorous curriculum design isn't what we're teaching. It's a process. It's how we unpack our standards. It's about the components of what is helpful for us. What I'm showing you here is just a snapshot of a live link that teachers have access to under rigorous curriculum design. And what it is as we go through our units, the teachers are getting what's going on, what is the work happening by the dream team, who are the teachers, so that they can see the kind of work that's going on and how we're moving forward. So the good news in this is that our units of studies are teacher-generated, and you've seen some of the units here. I remember memorably the third grade unit of study from Riverbank, where it was truly project-based learning going on, and just the excitement of the students of their learning. So this is what we call the work in progress. And then after every unit, teachers then can come in and they provide feedback so that when the dream team works together, they look at the teacher feedback about how did it go? How did this unit go? What are some things that can be changed? And that's the direct feedback that the dream team is looking at to then revise and edit according to the teacher's feedback. So this is complete work in progress, which I think is much more sustainable than just coming down and saying this is what we need to teach. The second thing that I wanted to show you in this is that we have already started to see progress in the how. So in our rigorous curriculum design and in our units of study, what we're seeing already after doing, usually we are all done with Unit 1. Many are almost done with Unit 2. But here's the good news in looking at formative data. So we're measuring along the way. What we are seeing already in the 5th grade math of Unit 1 of the units of studies, we've already seen from the pre and the post assessments that 190 more students are mastering those grade level standards in that Unit 1. So 190 were not at grade level when we first started Unit 1, and after the teaching time and after the learning experiences of Unit 1, 190 became more standards proficient. That's progress. That's what we should be celebrating. Another thing that I wanted to also show you is that in 7th grade, in their first unit, from pre and post, we saw a 36% increase of students in that one learning frame of time. So this is what we need to celebrate, is that what we're trying and what we're building along the way is we're beginning to already see the results. So imagine after all the refinement comes through as the teachers are using it, how much more we're going to be proficient at this. So it's work in progress. It is going to take time. It is going to take time. And after every unit, as long as we're giving the revisions and edits and providing feedback, that is really the most important key to that. So this is what our rigorous curriculum design is. We have invested over $1 million into this for teacher training, for building assessments so that all grade levels can have common talking points, and for students to have the same level of rigor no matter what school you attend and no matter what grade you're in. It is FAFSA time, and so over at River City High School, they will be hosting financial aid and FAFSA support on October 16th, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that this is for all seniors. So it's not just for River City High School seniors. So our middle college high school seniors, our Yolo High School seniors, they should be attending this as well, and it is open to their families as well. We'll have translators there, we'll have computers there, and we just want to make sure that all of our families know that this resource is available to them. This is not the only one. We will be doing multiple throughout the year. And I guess that's the last of my slides.
Thank you, Linda.
Yes, and I just wanted to also thank our student board member and welcome you. And I guess I will see you tomorrow night at the Raider football game.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Superintendent Luna or any comments? Linda, real quickly, on that, is that going out in Spanish and in Russian as well?
Yes, it is.
Perfect.
Yes, yes. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, yeah, I know, everyone's anxious. Future board agenda items, S1 Board Handbook.
Can I make a
course,
comment? Yeah.
sure.
So on it's set for some time this month to get involved. I was thinking it might be a good idea, since we're going to have a new board member, to wait until the new board member is brought on, to have part of the discussion to address the the board handbook. Does anybody have any thoughts or ideas on that?
Usually it is, ideally it would be approved every December. And so I think it should come to December, but I would recommend, because we did find that it was, there were some discrepancies between board policy
Right.
and this, that if some work could be done on it prior to
So you
then.
wanna work on it in
I think that
November?
would be helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, we're working on it, yeah.
Whatever you guys,
Yeah.
however.
It would be hard-
You two feel like, whatever.
But we can't bring it forth in October. That's my point.
In November, so
I
you're
didn't realize
looking
it
at
was you and I.
November?
Yeah.
Yeah.
we'll work on
Okay.
it. I think it's good, though, to do some of that heavy lifting beforehand,
Yeah.
before the December meeting, so
Okay.
that it's easier.
Well, I just want to be cognizant of
Okay.
campaign season and all that, so.
Sure, I have a new board member. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
thank
fair.
you. Okay, so let's go to S1, Board Handbook for November 2018.
Or, well, December is when it
December?
should really be approved,
All
but we
right.
could do a first read in November, and then
Okay.
make any additional changes in that December meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
But I think moving forward, it would be good to keep that as an annual
Right.
placeholder to
All
look
right,
at
very good.
annually.
What do you guys have time for?
Yeah. I don't have a lot of
Okay,
time.
very
I'm having
good.
surgery tomorrow. so
I know.
loads of time on our hands.
all right. S2, Student Progress on California Dashboard for 2018, discussed December 13th, 2018 during the organizational meeting. S3, Facility Study Session, October 17th, 2018. We invite everyone to please come. S4, Budget Study Session, November 2018. S5, Annual Board Organizational Meeting, December 13th, 2018. And we will now move to adjournment.
I move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Congratulations on your first